Hello, and thanks for tuning in. Last time, if you'll recall, we saw this.
Wow.
And so today, we're going to take a look at the second half of that video.
Now, I mentioned in my last video that the conversation's a little bit hostile.
So last time you told us there are indeed hostile people on the feminist side, and there are also hostile people on the anti-feminist side. I'm not sure where you're going.
And when I say hostile, I'm not referring to people being offensive or taking the piss.
Again, I'm not sure what this has to do with the actual arguments for or against feminism. This is like a poisoning the well or ad hominem attack, and a fallacy, no less. But continue.
Based on some of the reactions and questions that I've gotten from the anti-side, a lot of people don't seem to understand that I experienced that side of the conversation in the context of pretty intense harassment.
And you also told us last time that feminists threatened to kick your butt. I don't understand what this has to do with anything.
And anytime I've so much as hinted about this to this crowd, to let them know, hey, I want to talk to you, but look what's going on. People have slammed me and accused me of playing the victim and trying to garner sympathy.
So you just told us you're not talking about the people who are just taking the piss, but you're also telling me you're not fighting back against those accusations. Do you see the problem? That's why we say have these conversations in public rather than just in your emails or phone calls. Stop pretending that those people represent all of both sides as well as the middle, because that ain't how it works.
Being manipulative and all this kind of stuff. And it's at what point do I get to be a human being?
You are the one dehumanizing yourself by pretending that everyone else falls into two neat categories, and the few interactions you've had with people you identify as part of those things means that all adherents to either side are represented accurately by the points of view of these few people. That's not how discourse works. That's not how ideology works. You, above anyone else, should understand this.
Who is talking about a real experience that I'm having.
Argument from anecdote. Yes, it's a real experience you're having, but it doesn't fully represent either side, yet you're pretending as though it does. You're smarter than this, Laci, or at least I thought you were.
It's not my delicate sensibilities or my dogma that have prevented me from engaging.
You are absolutely correct. It's your choice to engage or not engage in Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. I agree, it has nothing to do with your sensibilities. Unfortunately, that means it probably comes down to something like your morals or personality. I'm glad to see that you're trying. You are still using social media, so your problem doesn't lie there, so it must fundamentally lie elsewhere.
It's that people have threatened to violently hurt me at public appearances, threats against my family, situations where I'm teaching students how to put a condom on properly and I have to be accompanied by police.
And you told us this is coming from both sides. Look, I can't help it that there are assholes out there, but again, that's what the police are for. I notice your one and only actual anecdote of violence being threatened against you came from the feminist side, but you're putting this under the anti-feminist half of your video. This is what we mean when we say you misrepresent people. You do have every right to be safe, and it's a good thing the law enforcement are actually there to protect you. Now, isn't it? Feminism fights for equality, and you do indeed have it.
And then I watch some of the, more extreme antis go on these tirades against people that I know and seeing how they affect those people, and it's just, there's a lot of toxicity there.
But you see, here's the thing. If I were a public figure, I would also be under similar scrutiny to you, especially if my job revolved around the topics of feminism and social justice. You have a choice. You do not actually have to pursue this career. You can do like I or countless others do, and work in a factory or something. But instead you choose to put yourself in these positions and engage with these people. And with that comes its own specific sort of risk. If you want your job to be as low risk as mine, then you have to do the job I'm doing. That's equality.
I couldn't even answer email from my viewers without having to go through a stream of graphic rape threats.
You see, you're pretending this kind of thing only exists around controversial topics. It doesn't. It exists anywhere there are famous people, and you are choosing to continue to be a famous person. It is perhaps exacerbated by the fact that you're in this specific niche, but the problem is there everywhere. Listen to this clip from Vi Hart.
I really don't want to do this video, resisting doing what is easy for me. No, we need to go back further. So, I got my first real death threat, specific death threat that included my address and everything, when I was 15. My first death threat, always an entertaining icebreaker conversation when you find yourself in a group of highly visible internet or entertainment people. If you want to engage with the internet community, that's just part of the territory, right? And it never even occurred to me to, call the police? Tell my parents? This was the early 2000s, back when the internet world was separate from real life. I don't know the extent to which she got death threats or had obsessive fans or stalkers, but for any woman at that level of visibility, I can be confident that she did. For anyone in a group that commonly gets marked as other, it becomes likely at relatively low follower numbers, and at a certain level of visibility, everyone has to deal with it. I learned early in my life to have more faith in the humanity of angry men than in any of the uncaring, inhuman systems around me. Plus a new crop of kids, plus I'm more visible, all I can do is ignore, block, ban, and continually discover that all that leniency and attention I used to give people is something they feel entitled to get. Christina Grimmie was shot at a meet and greet, and I kept refreshing the news, waiting to find out if she would live, but also because I needed to know whether it was someone she knew or someone who targeted her because of her fame. I've always struggled with how famous to be. Fame is an inconvenience. All I've ever wanted is to run off and be a hermit. And the only reason I didn't stop altogether with my entire public presence as soon as I could afford to is this responsibility I feel that I can do and say things that other people can't.
Again, it's not an excuse for why it happens. It's just a fact of reality that it happens. And there's very little you can do about it. Seriously though, I recommend watching that entire video. I only took a few clips here, just to get the general point. But there's much more nuance in the original video itself.
Do you get the picture here? So to the antis who are like, yeah, no shit, we have legitimate points, Laci. Like, what a fucking idiot. Like, we're not gonna give you cookies for this basic stuff. Like, you need to understand how this conversation looks to people like me, to people on the outside of your bubble.
Is this responsibility I feel that I can do and say things that other people can't? Sometimes because of my experience and expertise, and sometimes just because I'm not afraid. Not of threats, not of losing subscribers or money, and I'm certainly not afraid to disappoint people who don't like what I'm saying.
Because this is all I saw every day. And no, it's not the whole picture.
I can walk away at any time without sacrificing my income or my dreams, and whatever part of me felt fear broke inside me a long time ago.
Just like social justice warriors bastardizing feminism, this is what anti-feminism looks like.
No, you are trying to pretend that some trolls, jerks, assholes, who pretend to represent these ideals are somehow the way these ideals are. This is a reprehensible action and I will not stand for it. There are bad people everywhere. Quit pretending, strawmanning, poisoning the well into saying, well, they're just on the side that I happen to like less. Especially when you're telling us they're on both sides. This is intellectual dishonesty that you should know better.
And YouTubers are not responsible for crazy shit that their audience does. Of course not.
Then quit pretending it works that way for any other group of people.
But I do think that if the goal genuinely is dialogue, that people need to be condemning this stuff when they see it.
On Saturday morning, I found out she did not live. On Saturday afternoon, we found out his name and that he was a stranger, and we were still waiting to hear why when the world came apart again.
Yeah, the world is a crazy, terrible place, and if you want to live without risks, this world is not the place to do it. Engaging in dialogue or not, bad stuff can still happen to you. Whether people are trolls to you or not, bad things can still happen to you, to me, to anyone. to one of the friendliest YouTubers in the world, or a nightclub full of people, or a concert. Unfortunately, this is the world we live in. For the most part, we're pretty safe. But disengaging because you're afraid means your enemies have won. Don't let the terrorists and trolls win. Just keep doing.
And, being thoughtful not to egg it on. Even without the fringier stuff. These angry pile-ons on YouTube don't exactly say, let's talk.
Christina Grimmie was shot at a meet and greet by a stranger who waited for his turn on her signing line and who she met with open arms and a smile.
Unfortunately, life sucks sometimes, and what you described actually does happen. However, that doesn't mean we stop talking. We exercise our right to freedom of speech, because others cannot. In some parts of the world today, people are imprisoned, abused, and killed for exercising the free speech rights that you and I are enjoying right here. Yeah, bad stuff might happen, and there's nothing we can do about it, and that sucks. That's why we just keep on talking about the things we believe in, regardless of that.
Guess what I'm trying to say here? Is that I've seen a lot.
Please stop doing that on camera.
A lot of the same kind of stuff coming from both sides.
And again, I disagree. I think you're seeing a few extreme examples of people who are neither, pretending to be both.
And both sides see the other doing it, but they don't really want to acknowledge it within their own camp.
I agree, it sucks when an ideology will not call out its extremists, but what can you do? Again, I am neither feminist nor anti-feminist. So which side do I call out the extremists on? Tell me something. Is this extreme or not?
I think it's important to recognize that harassment is, as someone had mentioned, it's not just what is legal and illegal, right? Harassment is threats of violence, but it's also the day-to-day grind of you're a liar, you suck, you making all of these hate videos to attack us on a regular basis, and the mobs that come from those hate videos, etc.
Because that fairly mainstream feminist would say that what I'm doing right now is a hate video against you. This is part of the daily grind that is harassment, is just simply dealing with people. That was Anita Sarkeesian at her speech to the UN a year or two ago. I want to ask you right now, is what I am doing, responding to your points right here, a form of harassment? And if it's not, are you going to call out Anita for saying these things? Because I'm glad to call out the people who say that you should lose rights, but I don't hear very many of them in the anti-feminist camp.
But I think we can all agree that this kind of shit's uncool, right? Like, it's sociopathic, bit of an overreaction to someone who has a very different opinion, right? This is a big part of why I didn't engage for so long, and why I don't think anybody has to, either.
That's correct. No one is forcing you to engage. That would be psychopathic.
The reason I originally reached out to the antis in spite of all of this was because I just sort of run out of fucks.
So what you're saying is, you had never engaged the antis before because you thought you understood every argument any one of them could ever make. That's pretty shitty, don't you think? You only decided the anti-crowd was worth engaging with if they were gonna be nice and not hurt your feels. That's not how it works. I can hurt your feels just by simply not agreeing with you. But again, offense is taken, not given.
I was so depressed. I didn't really care anymore. Like, I was feeling kind of self-destructive, so burnt out on years of all kinds of craziness. This is a big part of why I didn't engage for so long, and why I don't think anybody has to, either.
Did you spot the logical inconsistency there? I know I sure did.
I knew I'd get a bunch of shit for it, but I thought to myself, you know what? I don't really have a choice. It's either this or try to appease everyone.
False dichotomy. You could have started out just engaging with your opposition, and then perhaps learning this years ago. And that's going to be about it for today. I think I've done as much of this video as I can. The arguments are just getting stale and repetitive, and so if you enjoyed that, click the thumbs up. If you didn't, click the thumbs down. Leave me a comment and tell me why. Don't forget to share this video with all your friends, and perhaps subscribe if you haven't already. I do this kind of thing once or twice a week, and I'm hoping Saturday to have my regular hangout going again in the evening. So if all those things sound interesting for you, be sure to stick around for a while and we'll have all sorts of fun. And as always, this has been Reverend JR, signing off.